The school founded by this ancient Greek philosopher became a model for modern higher education. The people of his time named him the divine teacher, because in his works he spoke of an ideal social structure and immortality of the soul. The ancient Greek thinker Plato said that time is the moving image of eternity. He was born in the year 427 BC into a family of aristocrats in Athens, Greece. On his father's side, Plato came down from the kings of Attica, and on his mother's side he was a descendant of the well-known Athenian lawmaker Solon. At birth, the boy received the name Aristocles. Young Aristocles had a strong body with wide shoulders. Because of his wide shoulders, he was nicknamed Plato, which means the broad, and this nickname remained throughout history. Plato received the traditional education for upper-class young people. He wrote poetry and tragedies, studied the works of philosophers of the past, wrote letters, played music, and painted. He participated in gymnastics, riding, and man-to-man combats, and won many competitions. This well-educated and capable young man was extremely shy and preferred activities by himself to discussions with his peers. By the age of 20, Athens already considered him one of its dearest citizens. He had a brilliant political career ahead of him, but destiny had something else in mind. In 407 BC, the young aristocrat met Socrates, the Athens street philosopher. Socrates, an old man, was shabbily dressed, barefoot, and usually surrounded by a crowd of pupils and onlookers. He conducted endless conversations about the idea of good, and from a modern point of view would surely be considered a madman. Yet he profoundly changed Plato's thinking. Examining Socrates' ideas, young Plato, a man to whom an outstanding career seemed promised, became disappointed in existing public and political ideals. He understood that a society based on such ideals was doomed for destruction, and that it was necessary to rescue it by finding a new and enlightened way. In 399, the tragic death of Socrates forced Plato to leave Athens. He spent 12 years wandering across Greece and southern Italy and fought in the Corinthian War. In Sicily, he was put into slavery, but was saved by his friends. He returned to Athens, where he founded the philosophical school, later named the Academy. It became the most famous school in all of the ancient Greek and Roman times, and existed about 1,000 years, until the Roman Emperor Justinian closed it in 529. The philosophy of Plato changed the old picture of the world. His ideas about the beginnings of the world and about immortality of the soul became a model for the Christian religion. Plato compared the human soul to a chariot, in which white and black horses are harnessed, the beginnings of good and evil in man. The rider on horseback who operates the chariot is good judgment. When the rider manages to hold back a black horse, the beginnings of evil, the soul can rise up and behave like God. One of the central themes of Plato's philosophy, which he states in detail in his work, The Republic, is an ideal structure of society and state. Plato trusted that his ideas would be made real and put into practice. To try to make this happen, Plato, at the age of 61, traveled to Sicily. Dionysius, the ruler of Syracuse, who was very interested in the philosopher's ideas, invited Plato to improve the government. Plato hoped that he would manage to change Syracuse into an ideal state. Disappointedly, he became involved in royal scandals and was soon forced to leave the city. However, Plato's disappointment did not last long. 5 years later, he returned to Sicily and tried again to improve things, but unsuccessfully. After this failure, Plato never again left his native Athens and supervised the academy practically up until the end of his life. The philosopher died in 347 BC, leaving a huge body of writing behind. Works of Plato were written in the form of dialogues, discussions between two people. Withstanding the differences of time, they still excite scientific minds. The most known ancient Greek legend that Plato wrote down was a myth about Atlantis, the fertile, densely populated island with an advanced civilization. Because of an unknown disaster, perhaps an earthquake, Atlantis suddenly sank underwater. This small event, stated in Plato's dialogue Crito, still gives rise to many theories today. Scientists argue about a place, time, and in general about the fact that Atlantis really existed. In 2004, Dr. Kunz from the German Wuppertal University carried out an analysis of satellite photos showing salty bogs near the Spanish city of Cadiz. In the photo made from space, there were visible remains of buildings with locations and sizes similar to those described by Plato. The German scientist assumed that Atlantis was not an island, but a coastal lowland destroyed by flooding between 800 and 500 BC. However, it is very likely that the scientific community will never fully agree about Atlantis. The ancient Greek thinker Plato, who left behind many followers and an updated philosophy, said, "Man has been constructed as a toy for God, and this is, in fact, the finest thing about him. All of us, then, men and women alike, must fall in with our role and spend life in making our play as perfect as possible."